Hello, Lad Lane Leopards. Our final four is set. On this side of the bracket, we had The Cat Who Walked Across France versus The Story of Ferdinand. And on this side of the bracket, we have The Bicycle Man versus Adelita. All right, our first final four matchup is The Cat Who Walked Across France versus The Story of Ferdinand. Hello, Lad Lane Leopards. Today I'm going to be reading The Cat Who Walked Across France by Kate Banks. The Cat Who Walked Across France by Kate Banks. Pictures by George Halensbin. The Cat Who Walked Across France by Kate Banks. Pictures by George Halensbin. For many years, the cat had lived in the stone house by the edge of the sea. He chased the wind that scuttled through the garden. He watched the birds flitter from tree to tree. At dusk, he curled up in the bend of the old woman's arm. The old woman would scratch the cat's ear and stroke his back. Good kitty, good kitty. Then one day, the old woman died. Her belongings, along with the cat, were shipped north to the house where she was born. But there was no one to scratch the cat's ear or stroke his back, and soon the cat was forgotten.
Do you want to go right there? It's brighter, you think? You have that ring light too.
He prowled the streets, begging for scraps to eat and fleeing from stray dogs, until one day he left. He roamed the countryside, circling pastures where animals grazed, and he watched his own shadow lengthen as each day drew to a close. At night, he sheltered himself in a lonely barn. He lay in a pile of stiff hay. But when he closed his eyes, he could feel the softness of the blue grass that grew behind the stone house by the edge of the sea. At daybreak, the cat would bathe himself in the first rays of the sun. Then he would trot off. Sometimes he strolled, other times he slunk. He learned to hunt field mice and birds and drink from the village fountains. Once someone set a bowl of milk under his nose, and he thought of staying. But then a voice cried, "Run along now." Big cities loomed large, bustling and brimming with noise, but the cat scampered bravely down the wide avenues, dodging cars and bicycles. Children playing ball would chase after him or cry, "Shoo, shoo," and the cat would scurry up a tree. But when he nestled in its branches, he would remember the tangy smell of lemons ripening on a branch under a window at the stone house by the edge of the sea, and he would move on. The cat pranced over bridges and bristled at the thundering trains that passed. At dusk, he would lick the dirt from his face and paws. In his dreams, he could hear the twigs snapping and the crunch of dried leaves as he circled around the stone house by the edge of the sea. Weeks passed, then months. The cat measured time against the weathered soles of his feet. His fur grew scruffy. Now and again he would stop to linger on a grassy bank or in a cool shade of an ancient wall. Or he would pause to watch a barge gliding down a canal. When it rained, the cat took refuge under a friendly rafter. He was lonely and tired, but when the storm passed, he would march on, driven by the taste of the salty air that blew off the water and coated the bench behind the stone house by the edge of the sea. When the cat came to a river, he would stop for a drink. He would watch the fish jump in wide arcs over the water, and he would cry, "Meow." Then he would stretch his legs, arch his back, and continue on his way. Sometimes he stopped to romp in the fields. He rolled in the tall grass and skipped over buttercups. But when he came to the fields of lavender, a memory stirred, and the cat saw the blue door of the stone house by the edge of the sea, and the soft light in the hallway that seemed to say, "Come right in." The cat was thin and frail when he wandered into the port. The boats with their flapping sails told him he was nearby. At last, he walked up to the gate of the stone house by the edge of the sea. The front door was wide open. The cat walked in. He settled into a warm spot and fell asleep. He awoke to the sound of voices. Where did it come from? Do you suppose it's lost? A boy and a girl were standing over him, talking. A platter of food was set on the floor, and a bowl of fresh water. The cat shied away. "Here, kitty," said a soft voice. A hand reached under the cat's chin and scratched. The cat began to purr. He closed his eyes. He was reminded of the hands of the old woman stroking his back. He could hear her quiet breathing and gentle words, "Good kitty," and he knew he was home. The end.
The Story of Ferdinand by Monroe Leaf and drawings by Robert Lawson. Once upon a time in Spain, there was a little bull, and his name was Ferdinand. All the other little bulls he lived with would run and jump and butt their heads together. But not Ferdinand. He liked to just sit quietly and smell the flowers. He had a favorite spot out in the pasture under a cork tree. It was his favorite tree, and he would sit in its shade all day and smell the flowers. Sometimes his mother, who was a cow, would worry about him. She was afraid he would be lonesome all by himself. "Why don't you run and play with the other little bulls and skip and butt your head?" she would say. But Ferdinand would shake his head. "I like it better here, where I can sit just quietly and smell the flowers." His mother saw that he was not lonesome, and because she was an understanding mother, even though she was a cow, she let him just sit there and be happy. As the years went by, Ferdinand grew and grew until he was very big and strong. All the other bulls who had grown up with him in the same pasture would fight each other all day. They would butt each other and stick each other with their horns. What they wanted most of all was to be picked to fight at the bullfights in Madrid. But not Ferdinand. He still liked to sit just quietly under the cork tree and smell the flowers. One day, 5 men came in very funny hats to pick the biggest, fastest, roughest bull to fight in the bullfights in Madrid. All the other bulls ran around, snorting and butting, leaping and jumping, so the men would think that they were very, very strong and fierce and pick them. Ferdinand knew that they wouldn't pick him, and he didn't care, so he went out to his favorite cork tree to sit down. He didn't look where he was sitting, and instead of sitting on the nice cool grass in the shade, he sat on a bumblebee. Well, if you were a bumblebee and a bull sat on you, what would you do? You would sting him, and that is just what the bee did to Ferdinand. Wow, did it hurt! Ferdinand jumped up with a snort. He ran around puffing and snorting, butting and pawing the ground as if he were crazy. The 5 men saw him, and they all shouted with joy. Here was the largest and fiercest bull of all, just the one for the bullfights in Madrid. So they took him away for the bullfight day in a cart. What a day it was! Flags were flying, bands were playing, and all the lovely ladies had flowers in their hair. They had a parade into the bull ring. First came the banderilleros, with long sharp pins with ribbons on them to stick in the bull and make him mad. Next came the picadores, who rode skinny horses, and they had long spears to stick in the bull and make him madder. Then came the matador, the proudest of all. He thought he was very handsome, and bowed to the ladies. He had a red cape and a sword, and was supposed to stick the bull last of all. Then came the bull, and you know who that was, don't you? Ferdinand. They called him Ferdinand the Fierce, and all the banderilleros were afraid of him, and the picadores were afraid of him, and the matador was scared stiff. Ferdinand ran to the middle of the ring, and everyone shouted and clapped because they thought he was going to fight fiercely and butt and snort and stick his horns around. But not Ferdinand. When he got to the middle of the ring, he saw the flowers in all the lovely ladies' hair, and he just sat down quietly and smelled. He wouldn't fight and be fierce no matter what they did. He just sat and smelled, and the banderilleros were mad, and the picadores were madder, and the matador was so mad he cried because he couldn't show off with his cape and sword. So they had to take Ferdinand home. And for all I know, he is sitting there still, under his favorite court tree, smelling the flowers just quietly. He is very happy. The end.
Enjoy both stories, and don't forget to vote. See who makes the championship matchup.